Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Varsity Views podcast. I'm Nick Stevens. This week was the North Carolina Coaches Association Clinic Week, and so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to bring on a longtime high school coach who has made an impact at several schools here in North Carolina. David Green coached for 49 years at various high schools, starting in South Carolina, then moving to Apex, where he was a longtime assistant coach for Bob Wolfe. He became the head coach at Leesville Road, where he stayed for 6 seasons, and he earned a reputation as a coach who would turn around programs. Leesville Road was a struggling football program for a long time, struggled to win games, multiple games in the season, and he really helped turn that program around. He went 52-24 in 6 seasons with the Pride, including an appearance in the 4AA Eastern Regional Championship in 2007. He later coached at Williams High School in Alamance County, then returned to Wake County, where he coached at Enloe High School, and most recently, Green Hope High School. He's now retired and living at the beach in South Carolina, but he hasn't stepped away from high school sports completely. Today, David Green is producing his own podcast where he shares stories about his time coaching high school football, and he's an entertaining listen. He's someone who has always had a lot to say, and he did not hold back in our interview. We talked about his podcast. We talked about the things that he remembers from coaching high school, some stories, how Wake County's football reputation turned around in the state of North Carolina in the 2000s, and his opinion on where things stand today with high school football and high school sports in general, where he has some concerns. So stay tuned. Here's the Varsity Views podcast with longtime football coach David Green. Longtime and now retired football coach David Green joining us now from the beach. Beach life treating you well, I hope, Coach?
Yeah, beach life is not bad. It's not bad at all. I recommend it to everyone, and I recommend starting it before you're 70.
Maybe you want to give it up to go do 7-on-7 life.
Nope, don't miss it. I see on social media that the coaches I know and they're 7-on-7s, and it's I'm thinking it's 90 degrees and you're out there all day. No, I do not miss that. I mean, it was kind of fun at the time, but no, it got old. It got old.
I always said, covering 7-on-7s, which I haven't done this summer, but covering 7-on-7s, it was fun for like maybe the first week, and then you're like, okay, this is kind of old now.
No,
a lot of
I'll tell you,
playing catch.
Yes, it is, and there's a lot of value to them. I mean, if you're doing them right, you're actually teaching and coaching, and we played in those tournaments to start with for years, and we were pretty good at it, especially at Leesville Road. We we kind of won the beast of everything. Everybody's got a beast nowadays, but we got away from that. It was just, it's all day in the sun, and these people who are playing 7 DBs and seeing stuff nobody's doing in a game, we cut that out. We just started having little 7-on-7s over at the school and inviting in coaches that we knew. And our whole deal was, we're going to play some 7-on-7, but anytime you want to stop and coach your players, stop and coach your players. And we don't care about score. We don't care about anything else. Let's just get some work done. And it really paid off. Plus, I didn't have to get out in the hot sun all day.
I was gonna say, and you get to do it in the morning or the evening and be done with it.
Yeah, we did them in the evenings.
Well, you're not doing 7-on-7s now, but you haven't like totally let go of football. You're kind of approaching it from a new perspective now. You're here on this podcast, but you're actually producing your own podcast right now. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I needed something to do, and I had all these stories, and I was going to write a book, but that's kind of hard. And so I decided, well, maybe the best way to just tell my stories was to do a podcast and tell a story or two around the same subject lines every week. Sometimes a longer story it's just a one story podcast. And, most of them are kind of funny, and I add in a little advice that probably nobody wants. But that's kind of what we've done up to this point is tell stories. I plan to start doing some interviews. I've got some lined up. I hope to get you on as well. And still continue to do a lot of stories tied in with, like the job of an athletic director, what a trainer does, what a sports journalist does, those sorts of things.
We cause
But it's
problems
fun.
for people like you, right?
Well, not really.
I always
Sometimes.
I was talking to gosh, probably about a month or so ago now, maybe longer than that. I was talking with Earl Smith, and
Yeah.
who was obviously the coach at Millbrook for a long time, and then at Wake Forest Rolesville at the time. And he was joking about how when Wake Forest Rolesville and Leesville were always head to head, you'd play twice a year. It seemed like
Yep.
in the regular
Yep.
season and the playoffs. And that was at the beginning of high school OT, and I was charged with picking winners. And no matter who I picked, the other team always won. And I'd have both of you texting me like, "Don't pick us this week."
Yeah, don't pick us.
So
Going up on the bulletin board. Nick hates us.
Yes.
Nobody believes in you.
I'm sure.
And then you probably remember, I think it was probably when you first started, the first year or two, when we were going down to play Southview.
I remember this.
Yeah. And and we would get seeing all that stuff, and I was just using it up about how nobody in Raleigh can play and Wheat County and all that.
Yeah.
And so I was having fun with it, but it was jacking our kids up.
For people who are newer, like the last, I don't know, 10 years or so to high school football in Wake County, like Wake County used to be considered like the laughing stock of high school football in North Carolina. And it's gotten so much better. And that night was kind of like, if you had to put your finger on a time that was the turning point, I think it was that night, because that night you guys went down to Southview and won, and Millbrook almost beat Newbern that night.
They sure did. I wish they had.
Yeah, I was at that game. That's where I was that night. I believe it's actually Kevin Reddick went to UNC who caught the game-winning touchdown as time expired.
I don't doubt it. I think it was.
Yeah, I believe that's right. But that was kind of the turning point. And then you had Wake Forest going to multiple state championship games, winning a few of them. You've had Rolesville in one. Leesville's been to one. Cardinal Gibbons has been to some. And so it really has changed. And I do think that night was a big turning point.
Well, I think not just that we won that night, but we played against an undefeated, excellent, physical football team. Mm-hmm. And Wake County teams were notorious for not being physical, and we out-physicaled them.
Yeah, and Southview was a machine.
Taylor Gentry hit them square in the mouth.
Future NC State guy, Taylor Gentry.
Oh, yeah. One of the toughest football players I ever coached.
What are your goals with the podcast? What are you trying to deliver to people who are listening?
I don't know. Like I said, it gives me an outlet, gives me something to do, gives me a chance to tell my stories. It connects. I've got a lot of connections, with former players going back good, 40 or 50 years who listen to the podcast, and they're messaging me about them and the memories it brought back to them and those sorts of things. So that's a big plus. And I kind of hope as I expand into getting these interviews with athletic directors, coaches of all type, sports journalists, all the people I've kind of come in contact with that have some different viewpoints and different stories to tell. Like, I've got one coach who started out as a rec league coach, and I hired him as an assistant, and he learned over the years, and now he's a defensive coordinator, one of the better football programs in the state. So, that kind of different viewpoint. How do you move from rec coach to building yourself a career as a high school coach, that sort of thing. So I hope, I can kind of show some of the background of what goes on with high school football, because a lot of people really don't understand that it's a lot more than just Friday night.
A lot more. That's the fun part. It's Friday night. That's the easy part. Almost.
Yeah, it's the easy part. It's nerve-wracking, but it is the easy part, because as they say, the hay's in the barn. You either got them prepared or you didn't.
Tell people the name of the podcast, where they can find it. How often are you updating it?
Yeah, it's called Did I Ever Tell You? It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, and it's on Apple. So hopefully, since you have a lot more listeners than what I have, I can get
I don't know. We're starting from the ground up right here. So
doesn't matter. I'm still at kind of that stage too, even though I've been doing it for a few months. But I try to put one out every week. It's been a little struggle with things that have been going on the last couple of weeks, but we're back on schedule again. So this week's was a golf story instead of a football story, because I have coached lots of things over 49 years.
Does that mean you can fix my swing?
No.
Okay.
As I explained in the podcast, my job was to get them to the matches and to teach golf etiquette to the ones who had no golf experience. If you're coaching golf at McD High School, it is not the same as coaching golf at Green Hope High School. Those kids at Green Hope can all play when they get there.
Oh, I promise you that's not true, because I went to Green Hope and I still can't play.
But the kids at McD, you got some kids that are coming out there for the first time. The first day we had practice, we had kids show up in T-shirts and wife beaters and cut off blue jeans. And of course, the golf pro came over and went, we'll let you all practice a day, but don't come back like this again.
Oh, golf is about having fun.
Yes.
Just going out there and accepting the fact that you're going to lose a lot of golf.
Exactly. I am awful. Those kids could beat me.
Yeah.
I just tried to teach etiquette to those kids who couldn't play, get them to the matches. Now, they would threaten. You couldn't coach back then. I don't know whether they can now, but you couldn't coach during the match. Once the kids teed off till they finished the last hole, you couldn't talk to them, couldn't coach them, couldn't do anything. You could ride by in a golf cart and give them a thumbs up, thumbs down, but that's about the best you could get out of it.
I promise you, when you're playing golf, you don't need the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yes, you do. I could kind of tell, but they did claim. I had players claim that they made fantastic putts on the 18th green because they could see me standing up on the hill above the green, glaring down at them with that football look.
I believe that. I've seen that. I've been to Leesville Road practices and I've seen that look.
Yeah, you've seen it. Yeah. People think, it's just me going nuts on Friday night. You kind of have to come to practice too.
You started coaching, correct me if I'm wrong, in South Carolina, right?
Yes, I did.
And then you moved to North Carolina, and I heard something. I've been so in my full-time job, one of the things I'm working on is helping with the Wake County kickoff. Apex and Cary are playing each other. It's the 100th year of that rivalry game.
Amazing.
Which is pretty crazy.
It is.
But longtime Apex coach Bob Wolfe, I've been talking to him about some of the stuff from his perspective, trying to get some stuff going on that front. And he told me something I did not know. I knew you coached with Bob Wolfe at Apex as an assistant. I did not know is he had to talk you into it. You were not going to coach.
Well, this is one of my favorite stories too. In fact, I think I talked about some of it on a podcast before. But when we were moving to North Carolina, basically I just sent out resumes and cover letters to everybody in the Chapel Hill, Wake County area, because my wife's son was playing football at UNC. And so we were moving up here so he could kind of get the in-state rate after the first year. He was a punter. But anyhow, how long you want me to tell this story, Nick?
Go for it.
Or just stick to the Bob part?
It's all up to you. You tell us.
Yeah, you can cut it out anyhow. So anyhow, Stephen Gainey, who was later the principal at Leesville Road and who hired me over there,
And now
was
the president of the NCHSA board of
yes,
directors.
he is. And let me tell you, there's a guy to be in charge of it. The guy understands it. Man, what a great principal to work for. And talking earlier about changing things in Wake County, he was a big part of that. I can't remember the name of the principal at Wake Forest with Earl, and then when Reggie first came on there. But those two guys especially believed that you could have good high school football and good academics and all the other stuff you wanted at the same school. And they put the effort into trying to make football at those two schools good. And then it kind of spread through the rest of the county as other principals didn't want to look bad in comparison to what those guys were doing. But anyhow, he was an assistant principal at Leesville Road. And he called me and told me they were having a job fair. And the job fair was going to be at Leesville Road. And he wanted me to come up. And I said, sure, job fair sounds good. He said, I don't want you to go to job fair. I just want you to come see me. So that's what I did. I drove up the Leesville Road. Back then, there was none of that 540 stuff or whatever it is that runs up there by there. You had to take all those back roads.
Getting to Leesville used to be difficult.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
So anyhow, I went up there to see him. He interviewed me. I talked a minute with the principal, Dr. Murphy. And then they had me interview with the head of the social studies department. And turns out she didn't want to hire any coaches, and the principal gave her a lot of sway, so I didn't get that job. But Dr. Gainey had been at Apex. He was actually one of Bob's assistants too. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I did not know that.
No. A lot of people are not familiar with that. They called him Skippy at the time, by the way. He'll hate me saying that. But anyhow, he gave my information to Tom Dixon, who was the principal, a great principal, and to Ed Tyndall, great athletic director. And so they had me come over, and basically what they wanted me to do was help coach basketball, because they had a basketball coach who was kind of young and inexperienced, and they thought having an old guy sit on the bench with him could kind of help out some.
Was that David Neal?
This is before David, and I'm not mentioning any names, but it was not David. No, it was not. Because
I was going to say, if that
David didn't need any help.
I was going to say, if that was the case, you might have played a role in winning a state championship at Apex.
No, I did not. not directly. Anyhow, I mean, you could say that an opening occurring for David Neal, I played a role in. I guess maybe in some way, because it was just a fiasco. So they said I could help Bob out until basketball season started. And it was a great experience. Gosh, I learned so much. Because Bob's so organized. So I've been in small school. There's me and a couple other guys, and I'm kind of, a lot of times, coaching most of the positions. And now I go to a big school where you've got this real coaching staff and responsibilities delegated and all this organization. I learned all that stuff from Bob that I use later on. But staff, he had like 5 head coaches on that staff. It's amazing staff. One of the best groups I've ever worked with. And I tried to kind of do the same thing, and I ended up hiring a lot of the same people later, including Bob. But anyhow, when I went up and interviewed with Tom and with Ed, and they told me I had the job and all that kind of stuff. But he said, look, I want you to come back and talk to the basketball coach. He's kind of upset we didn't include him. I went, okay. And they said, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the job. You got a job anyhow. So just, come on up here and talk to him. And I went, doesn't have anything to do with the job. I said, no. I said, you're hired. So anyhow, I went up there, and they told me to go back to the conference room. I walked down the hall back there in the back of the office where the conference room is. And the guy was standing out there. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're not what I expected." And I'm kind of like, "Yeah? What were you expecting?" He said, "I thought you were going to roll in here in a robe and sandals. Like they keep talking about you." Yeah. They keep talking about you like you're the second coming. We almost didn't even go to the interview. I'm about to walk out right there because it's obvious, right? But I go, I'm gonna let this pass. I'm gonna do the interview because I told Tom I would. So I go in there and we go through the interview, and it ain't good. He doesn't want me. He's got some young guys help him. I can understand. He thinks they're bringing me in to take his job. That's the last thing in the world I want to do is coach basketball again. That's way too much. Way too much for an old guy. Besides, football was like, my thing by then. So anyhow, this story's getting long. But I drove back home. I called Tom and went, I called Ed actually and went, "I'm not coming." And I explained to him why. He said, No. I said, "Can't come." He said, "Let me talk to Tom." So he talked to Tom. Tom called me. We had several conversations back and forth. And I finally went, "Okay, I'll come up there." So coach football, first day of basketball practice, we're getting ready for the playoffs. I got to not coach football. I mean, it's playoffs, man. Come on. So I go to basketball practice. All's good. After basketball practice, for the first time, he actually talks to me about what we're going to do. All semester long, he hasn't talked to me at all about basketball practice. So he tells me they're going to practice all day on Saturday and they're going to practice on Sunday. And I go, whoa. You're not against the rules? He went, "Yeah, but they don't know we're doing that." I go, "No, I don't do that. I do not do that. No, I'm sorry. No. So I go home. I worry about it all night. I come back in next morning. I go in to see Ed. And I say, "Ed, I'm not coaching basketball." "No way." And Ed said, "That's what he hired you for. You know he can ship you off to East Wake Middle School anytime he wants to." And I went, "If he fires me, he fires me. If he sends me somewhere, he sends me somewhere. But I ain't doing this." And I explained the whole thing to him. And then he talked to Tom. And of course, I got one of them notes, "See me after school," which is always the worst thing any teacher or coach can get. Is one of those notes, "See me after school." You know something's up. But at least this time I knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Get one of those in the middle of the day and you start thinking, "Oh my God, what did I say? What did I do?" But
You didn't have to
anyhow,
worry about that much. You're always soft spoken and
exactly. I never
well-behaved.
offended anybody. So I go in and I talked to Tom and I tell him the story and why I'm not doing it. He went, "I understand. You're good. Going back to football." So that's what I did. And eventually they ended up with David Neal, who was a great hire. And I got to coach football for 5 years over there. And I'm going to tell you, it was 5 of the best years of my coaching career because I had decided I was never being a head coach again. This was too much fun and there was no stress. And Bob pretty much let me do whatever I wanted to do.
Well,
So,
you did become
good gig.
you did become a head coach again multiple times at different
Yeah.
schools. And
Yeah.
you kind of got a reputation around here for being like a program turnarounder. I mean, you went to Leesville and Leesville was not very good. I remember before you were at Leesville, I was in high school. I was at Green Hope. That was back when Green Hope was they made the regional final.
Yeah, they
And
were pretty good.
Leesville was like, "Oh, well, that's a win on the schedule every year," right? But
Yeah.
you get to Leesville, you turn that program around pretty quick. You do the same thing when you go to Enloe. You do the same thing when you go to Green Hope. And then also Williams, you had success there. What was it that allowed you to step into some of those situations that were, I mean, I don't know if systemically losing is a right way to put that, but they were not in a position to compete at a high level, and they all did.
Well, it's kind of what I enjoy doing, is that's a challenge.
Mhm.
You know, you come in, you take over a team that's won 10 games every year. It's not much of a challenge as long as you got some talent still there and the infrastructure still there to win 10 games again. But, if you go into some place where you see some potential and there are problems you think can be fixed, then that's a good challenge. Now, there are places I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole because they can't be fixed. The problems are too built in, and the people in charge are not willing to fix them. As I always said when I was in Wake County, if you want to know how good the program is at one of these schools and why it's good in Wake County, don't look at the guy coaching on the field. Look at the guy sitting behind the big desk in the main office. He's responsible for that happening, and it's what you have to have. We got good at Leesville because Stephen Gainey gave us what we needed to be competitive. We were fortunate enough to have some young players who were leaders, potential leaders, who really stepped into those roles. And it just kind of took off from there. There were a lot of things we had to do. We had to build a staff. Um, First staff I had was very small, but gosh, I had some great coaches. Chad Smothers and Jason McGeorge were great coaches, ready to be head coaches when they first came in to work with me. And then we had some younger guys that we developed as coaches, like Jeremy Fulbright, who later became a head coach in Wake County. Um, but him getting us a staff and deciding that the head of some department could not determine whether or not I could hire a football coach. As long as the person could be a good teacher, the fact that you didn't want to coach in your department, that wasn't going to keep us from getting good people in there. So he was responsible for that. He was responsible for the weight room. We expanded the weight room twice while I was there. Um, he expanded it, and Scott Lyons expanded it after him. Scott was another great principal to work for. And part of the reason I went to Enloe was that Scott was over there. Part of the reason I didn't stay at Enloe was Scott got transferred to Heritage. But anyhow, that's a whole nother story. But the weight room. So Dr. Gainey told us we were going to get the football players in the weight room. They'd never been in the weight room. The year before I got there were 7 football players taking weight training classes. 7, 7, 7. You can't, no. You can't win anywhere with that. And so we will get them into weight training classes. And we were also lucky that parents would listen to us. We said, we need your son in there. And they bought in. We had 95% of our football players in the weight room. We had a football weight training class. Eventually, that class got so big, we had 2 different coaches in there running it. But it was all because Dr. Gainey made sure they got in there. The first year, I got the weight training class schedule, and it's full of people that aren't football players. And the football players are not in any weight training class, even though they signed up for it. I go, Dr. Gainey, I went, this isn't what we talked about. And he said, no, it certainly isn't. He said, give me a list of all football players as quick as you can get it. So that took me about 10 minutes to print him off a list and put it on his desk. He took it and put it on the dean of students desk and said, put every one of these in weight training class and get it done today. And it took off from there. He made sure things were done the way they needed to be done. Weight training, equipment, support for us, I'm outspoken. Somebody went to Dr. Gainey, he kind of handled it, smoothed it over. But the parents did so much over there. What a great group. God, I mean, you would think, and you would think, I had heard they were bad. I'd heard they were bad.
The parents.
Like the parents. They not just the program, the parents that, they had put flyers on cars in the parking lot wanting to fire the coach before me, that they had hung him in effigy down near the state. I'm thinking, good God, who does that in high school? But me, I'm thinking I can handle it because I'm just, I ain't listening to them, and I'll tell them what I think. And if they fire me for doing that, they do that. So
that is real, by the way. I've that is how he approaches things.
Yeah, it is. So like the first year, we're getting our butts beat. I mean, we're playing close. We lost like 6 games in the last minute, and we're going from, they were won like 1 game the year before and maybe 2 the year before. I mean, it hadn't been good. Mm-hmm. But it's close, and they're leaving the field, and the parents are like, and I'm going, stop. Playing close is not our goal. That's not what we're trying to do here. Don't tell them they do good when they mess up. Let us coach them up, and they'll get better, but don't tell them they did good. And the parents bought into it. They quit doing it. I told the parents, don't you ever approach me after a game. It's just not good. If you want to talk to me, we'll talk some other time, but don't come up to me leaving the field. And only one ever did it. And I was like, that year we won 1 game. That year we won 1 game. And that was against Enloe. And they rushed. They had a guy, I think his name was Greg Williams. He ran for 480-something yards that night against us, set the state record. Yeah, we gave up like 700 yards, something like that, and we won. And we won because our kicker, no, I'm serious. We won, it gets better. Our kicker with a broken foot, he's actually got one of those boots on his off foot, not his kicking foot, kicked the field goal to win the game. That's how good a coach I am. I got a guy out there with a boot on kicking field goals. But anyhow, we won the game. It's the only one we won all year. So we are so happy, and I'm so happy. And some parent comes over to me in the parking lot and starts foolishness. Well, my wife has already ripped him a new one up in the stand. And he makes the mistake of coming over to me, and it wasn't pretty. I'm sure if Dr. Gainey or somebody from the school district had been in the parking lot, or anybody who wanted to rat me out had been in the parking lot, it probably wouldn't have been good after that, especially if it had gotten to the district office.
Well, that was a different time.
It was, and I ripped it in front of everybody. All the other parents saw it, and a lot of them over there applauding. But nobody, I would come off to the game. We beat Wake Forest in the playoffs, and I'd come off the field. Parents would not speak to me. They were not like patting me on the back. They're just, they know the rules. Stay away from this crazy man on Friday nights. But yeah, it's all a matter who's taking care of things for you.
The principal,
and I'm sure he heard about it. He told me a story later. I think we were at Cary, or it was either Cary or Broughton. I think it was the night we had the big comeback at Broughton, where we were down 18 and a half. And he's walking around the track with some people from the district office. Yeah, because they were having a big Hall of Fame night or something over at Broughton that night. And so the people from district office were over there, and he's walking around the track talking to them. And then he realized he was about to walk to the area where me and Chad and Jason McGeorge, who the players swore had no heart. We beat somebody by 50 points,
gosh.
and Jason, after the game, would just be ripping them. And then I'd have to come back and get him cheery again after he spoke to me. But after he sees us down there ripping into these kids, and he goes, let's walk over this way.
He was looking out for you.
Yeah, because he understood. The man played. He coached. Part of the problems we got in schools today is they don't have enough football coaches as principals anymore like we used to have back in the day. That's a big issue.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to get to before we wrap this up is how things have changed over the years. I mean, was it 49?
49
seasons?
Started coaching in 1973.
So it's safe to say a lot changed since 1973.
Oh, definitely.
In a lot of ways. But in coaching in high school sports, I think a lot of it has gotten better, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot more resources, I think, for athletes and everything.
Yes.
But there have been some changes, and I'm just curious, like, what do you think about where high school sports are today, where high school football is today compared to where it was when you started?
I worry about it today. I seriously worry about it today. I think in many ways we're headed in the wrong directions. It used to be when I started, I mean, you always had, guys who were me guys. But back in the day, it was about, to me at least, an easier to coach team. This is about the team. This is about the school. This is about the community. And that's the sort of things that not only I talk to them about, not just in everyday conversations, but that was always a part of the pregame speeches I gave, is that what they were going to do that night was about them as a team, playing for each other, doing their roles, working together, the things high school football teaches kids, but how it was for their school and how it was for their community, and place at Leesville, that was a big deal because those kids had lost so much and those parents in the community were losing so much. The Booster Club handed out T-shirts every year to all athletes. They wouldn't wear them in many cases because people laughed at them. And so when we started winning, and we're talking about school and community and togetherness and team, that was a big deal. And it's part of what they fed on. And I think now, I mean, we're just a decade removed from that, basically. Now it's I guess we're 2 decades removed from when I first went there. Good Lord, I am old. I keep thinking about that as being a decade ago, Nick. Goodness, oh, it's that long. No wonder they all have children now.
I've been doing this for almost 2 decades.
Yeah, so. Goodness. But I think we lost that. I think we've lost that. All the moving around, and I'm not going to say it never happened. I mean, when I was in high school, we had a great running back. The head coach had gotten his dad a job over there near the school, paying him more money. So they got him a house. So they lived there. So it's not like it's never gone on, but not like this. Not like it's out in the open, and you pretty much in many places, it doesn't matter. You can jump around. We got kids announcing on Twitter their commitment to another high school. Come on. So it's harder. It was harder towards the end to team, not me. Because if it wasn't the transfer part, then it was the scholarship part.
Yeah.
Well, are you getting my kid a scholarship? Hell no, I don't have any in my back pocket. That's what I tell them every year. Tell them at the parents' meeting. I don't have any in my back pocket. I cannot hand them out. I will make sure your kid's film gets to coaches. I will talk about your kid to coaches. But if your kid is a Division III player or worse, no, I'm not going to tell Coach Doran that kid needs to play at NC State and that they need to look at his film, because they don't. And if I do that, Coach Doran won't respect me enough when I really do have a kid that can play over there. So that kind of stuff, and the people in their ears and the social media, it's just, I never lost a kid who left us and went somewhere else until near the end at Green Hope. And near the end at Green Hope, I had a player who we all thought we had a great relationship with. Him, his mom, we did things for him, Bridgewater. But we come to the end of the season, we lose to a very good football team in the playoffs. Seniors, of course, are crying. This kid's not a senior, but he's crying. He comes over, he's hugging me, all this kind of stuff. And then during the summer, hey, he tells us he's transferring somewhere else. And I don't know, Nick, that just kind of, that was just one of the things towards the end, as well as getting into my 70s, that just kind of, this isn't fun anymore. I need to let it go.
You mentioned the impermissible benefits you were providing athletes in Teddy Bridgewater. We kind of talked about this. We'll wrap up on this, but we kind of talked about this before we started recording. And I told you I'm going to couch this in a way that, assuming what we have been told is correct, and there's not more to the story about trying to entice kids to come to the school by providing them stuff, which would obviously be a problem.
Exactly.
This whole thing, I think you agree with me, seems a little bit ridiculous because coaches are doing this everywhere. Coaches everywhere are making sure kids eat and have a ride home, and coaches everywhere are taking kids on recruiting trips and making sure they can go to team camp and making sure they have the same, team apparel if they can't afford it.
Yeah, guilty. Every one of those things you listed, guilty. I mean, if you're deserving of the title coach, you're doing those things for your kids. You're not going to let a kid go hungry. You're not going to have a kid miss going on a recruiting visit because he can't afford to go there. You're going to make sure he gets it. If a kid can't get home at night, you're either going to take him home or you're going to get him an Uber. If a kid's family is hungry, you're going to buy them groceries. You're going to have food there at school for the kids to eat. And I don't care what school you're at. If you're at little old McBee High School, if you're at wealthy schools like Apex or Green Hope, or if you're at schools like Enloe, you got kids that need help. And that's your job. It's a more important job than teaching them X's and O's and winning football games. So everybody does that. I don't know of a coach who does not do those things for their players. Teddy's just got more money to spend than the rest of it. And if he's not using it to recruit other players, if he's spending it on his kids, God bless the man.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, that's $100,000 to you and me is a lot of money.
Yeah.
$100,000 compared to what Teddy Bridgewater's net worth is, if you do a quick Google search, assuming that's accurate, is less than 0.5%. So, that's like you and me spending, I don't know, a lot less. I can't do math. I'm not a numbers person. That's why.
But they pay me $3,000 or $4,000 or so to coach football. Yeah. I can spend that on the kids.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can
and
spend that on the kids.
hopefully we're going to see some movement in North Carolina soon to increase that coaches supplement. We had last week on the podcast, we talked to the state senator who introduced that bill to use the sports gambling tax revenue to help pay high school and middle school coaches more. Hopefully
Yeah.
that's something that can happen.
Let's hope so. I saw the list like this morning that I don't know, it was probably on Twitter that you had, and there was good old Alamance County in the fifth lowest. I'm telling you, when I first went over there, I could not believe what they were paying coaches,
Yeah.
especially the assistant coaches. Some of those guys are getting like $800 to coach football all year. I mean,
Which is crazy.
It was crazy. I mean, I didn't have enough coaches, so I went to the booster club and asked them. This is probably against rules, and asked them to pay.
I can't do anything to you now.
No, they can't. For 2 more coaches, and the booster club said, "Yeah, how much you need? About $5,000." And I went, "No, 2 coaches would be $1,600 according to the scale, and y'all can't give them more than what the scale is." Yeah.
Wow.
They were shocked. They were shocked. But Alamance County hasn't done anything about it. And let me tell you, Alamance County has the best overall. You can't swing a dead cat in Alamance County without hitting a great football coach. I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
If we have any cat people watching, just know he is also a cat person.
I am. I got 3 of them. Don't let the HOA hear that.
Well, it's good to see nothing's changed, Coach Green.
Nothing's changed.
All right. One more time, tell everybody where they can listen to the podcast.
It's on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Apple and Spotify have video versions. I'm sorry, Spotify and YouTube have video versions so you can see my smiling face. Apple only has audio, and it's called Did I Ever Tell You?
And he's got some great stories, so go listen to them. I'm looking forward to hearing some of these interviews that you're going to do. I think that's going to be entertaining.
I think it will be. I think I've got a nice mix of people who've already told me that they're willing to do them. So I'm really looking forward to kind of getting started with those.
That sounds good. Well, Coach Green, if you decide to get back into coaching sometime, let us know.
I have trouble walking around the yard now. One Friday night, you'd be writing my obituary, no doubt.
No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for the time, and hopefully everybody will go check out the podcast, and we'll catch up again soon.
Great to talk to you, Nick, like always.
Thank you to David Green for taking the time here on the Varsity Views podcast. We will be back next week with another episode of the Varsity Views podcast. In the meantime, be sure you like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, and all the other various places you find podcasts on your favorite podcast apps. Give us a 5-star rating so other people can find the Varsity Views podcast. And of course, go to varsitync.com and subscribe there. You can get a free subscription or upgrade to a paid one to get all kinds of content about high school sports in North Carolina. We'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Nick Stevens. Thanks for watching or listening to the Varsity Views podcast.